part of web services, how many types of services we have right now in our development level, what services we are using or what services are making more performance, and what services, what kind of services or what type of services are being used nowadays in every real-time application. We try to understand in yesterday's session. So tell me, what is a web service first of all? What is a web service? Web service is a concept of integrating applications or integrating applications or to exchange the information between applications. To exchange information between application. Integration is nothing but what? Exchanging only, right? So you're just sharing information from one application to another application, or you are sending a request from one application to another application. And then other application is going to process your request and generates a response, and that response again giving back to the actual requested application, right? So that is what the meaning of integrating applications or communicating in between the applications or exchanging information in between applications. These are all things we are going to achieve always by using which concept? A web service concept. Okay. So out of web services, how many types of web services we have generally? Total 2 we have. One is SOAP, second one is REST. So why? Before REST services, I told you yesterday, there is only one option we have, that is SOAP web services. So whenever you are working with the SOAP web services, so at one point of time, we have only the way we are integrating or exchanging information in between applications via SOAP web services. But SOAP web services is going to work with which protocol internally? XML protocol. So that means when you are working with the SOAP protocol or when you are using SOAP services or SOAP services concept to integrate application 1 and application 2, what we have to do is in both the application side, you have to make sure writing a lot of XML configurations and XML things you have to take care. So it's a very lengthy process and it is involving another protocol called as XML protocol. But our applications are following which protocol? HTTP protocol. So that's why when you are having only one option, people started using only that option, even though it is increasing the complexity of development as well as it is giving less performance also. People are using SOAP web services, fine. But nowadays, after that, some point of time, one more concept came into the picture to integrate or to communicate in between the applications. What it is? REST services. So what REST services is doing now? So what is the REST services now? REST services is going to depend on any other protocols? No, REST services is built on top of HTTP protocol only. REST services is a architecture style or REST services is a different concept or different technology. No, it's a completely an architecture style built on top of HTTP protocol or built with HTTP protocol. REST services or REST web services or REST API, these are all terminology representing same concept. Okay. So this services, REST services or RESTful services is implemented. The concept is implemented with protocol of HTTP protocol, and RESTful services always describing about an architecture style, how we are going to generate our services so that other applications will communicate with our application very easily, or how they are going to communicate with our application by using RESTful web services. That is what we are going to learning now in as part of the REST services concept. Okay, it's a simple architecture style. It is a lightweight when comparing with SOAP web services. Why SOAP web services is going to be, when comparing with REST services, why SOAP services are going to be difficult, or why people are considering the REST services? The main agenda, the main reason is SOAP is completely depends on which protocol? XML protocol. So it is involving a third party protocol and HTTP protocol to XML, XML to HTTP protocol. These kind of conversions you require. But here, are we involving any third party protocols? No, REST services level. Only purely HTTP application and as well as HTTP application. So most of the times we will create always HTTP applications. So that's why the REST services are going to give a lot of performance when comparing with the SOAP web services. So that's why REST services are very lightweight when comparing with the SOAP web services. It's not involving any other third party protocols. So it's purely working with HTTP protocol only. And REST services is a architecture style. It's not a different technology or different protocol. Okay. And REST stands for representational state transfer. So what you are representing here, what is the meaning of representational or representing state transfer and all? After a couple of examples, I will again explain this, then you will understand what you are transferring, which state you are transferring, what you are representing. Okay, then you will understand after taking a couple of examples. SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. Okay. Okay, and after that, we discussed a couple of other points also. Why even, okay, web services is a main topic. Inside that subtopic is REST services we are going to learn. But why REST services are getting popular nowadays with respect to any application? So what are the use cases we understood yesterday? Why REST services are getting popular? We discussed a couple of use cases. Why REST services are getting popular? At what level we are using the REST services? We understood a couple of points. The first point, what I explained yesterday, integrating front-end user interface with the back-end application. So we can do in the same project also. But why REST services? See, in previous project we did front-end and back-end integration in the same project. We are not used any REST services. In servlets also you are not used any REST services. You integrated front-end and back-end everything. Then why REST services? Why REST services then? See, you can integrate only HTML, CSS, JSP with the backend when you are thinking about the Java language. But if I want to use the front-end different frameworks, front-end frameworks, the latest frameworks, React or Angular or whatever it is, Vue.js or whatever it is. So then, is it possible to keep the React code or Angular code, everything in the Java project, inside the Java project itself? Can we run React application inside the Tomcat server? No, right? So can we keep React code inside the Tomcat server? No, we cannot do that. Then how we are going to integrate? But at the same time, we have to use latest frameworks of the front end. Okay. And I have to use latest frameworks of the back end. And I have to make sure everything is latest, and I have to make sure the application is built with respect to front end and back end. Everything is in the latest technologies or latest frameworks. Then what is the way you are having? Front end is running on a different server or different location or different place. Back end is working on different server. Then how you are going to make communication between these two? Via REST API only or REST services only. So our backend application is going to implement 100% on the REST services concept, and those services are being integrated by the front end application or user interface application. So that finally front end is connected with the backend. So finally our application is a full stack application. Finally our application is a full stack application. So you know the meaning of full stack developer now? So this is what the meaning of full stack developer. Okay, when you know the full stack, in the sense, you should know, okay, so then only you can consider yourself as a full stack developer. You should know front end very well. You should know back end very well. Until database you should know. And you should know how to integrate front end with the back end, maybe the REST services concept also. You have to know these things also. Whenever you know front end and back end integration via REST APIs and all, then you can call yourself as a full stack developer. Okay. So that is what the meaning of full stack developer. You should know front end, you should know back end, then you are full stack developer. Okay. Okay, so now that is one use case. Second use case is front end versus back end point of view. We understood one use case. What are the second use case? Guys, I explained 1 hour. At least give me 1 minute answers. Yes, different technologies. Speak out, no problem. Even though if you are speaking wrong, no problem. Just first of all, start speaking out. Okay. So second thing is different technologies. For example, nowadays, Java is popular for the pure enterprise application development. Python is popular for data science analytics point of view. Now your project is having two things. One is enterprise level application functionalities, business functionalities. Second thing is business analytics. Then you know that business analytics point of view, data analytics point of view, Java is not that much popular, or maybe Java is not having that much libraries. Okay. Or Java is not having that much predefined libraries. So Python is having everything. But at the same time, enterprise, the business functionalities is going to implement in the Java language. We are not considering Python because Java is going to give more performance. Then how we are going to make, so now I decided analytics application I will make in the Python language. Okay, the business functionalities application I will make in the Java language. But I have to make sure again communication between Java versus Python. So then again, how can you make sure that? By using REST services or web services. Okay, by using web services, we are making sure that. So that means the diversification of languages also, when you are working with any real-time environment, the diversification of programming languages. You can use whatever the language you want in your real-time applications in any project. At the same time, you can communicate between one application to another application also. So now, if I implemented analytics on the analytics also in the Java language, when I felt like I don't want to write a separate application, everything I will keep in the same or single project, analytics and business functionalities. So is it going to be a good approach, good solution? No, right? We know that Python is supporting a lot of functionalities. Python is giving a lot of features with respect to analytics. So that's why we have to use the latest, whatever is trending or maybe whatever is giving good performance or good features. We have to keep it up as it is, and we have to make sure business functionalities. So you have to integrate these two like that. Or tomorrow some other application would like to integrate with your application. Then also the other application may be implemented on the .NET. So your application is Spring Boot application or Java application. So then how you are making the communication? Again, web services, nothing but nowadays the popular is REST services. That is what one more reason. So that's why nowadays it's becoming very easy. It's become very easy. One application is integrating with the another application. That's why you can see a lot of Phone Pay, Google Pay, Amazon Pay, WhatsApp Pay, how all these things are happening. So finally, these are all things going to connected to your actual bank accounts or not. So then how these are all happening? Yes. Give me a second. Yeah, sorry. Okay, that is what one more reason. And the next reason is, sorry, microservices. One more is microservices architecture. Nowadays, every project is being implemented by following microservices architecture for any biggest real-time or enterprise level applications. Everybody is following nowadays microservices architecture. Okay, then as part of microservices architecture, we are making the entire functionality into small functionalities. The entire big application into small applications. Then how you are making communication between one application to another application or one small service to another service. How you are enabling communication between one microservice to another microservice. What is the concept again? Web services. So nothing but we can consider it as a REST services. So this is what the reason everywhere people are talking about the API development. Everyone is talking about the API development. So it's a plug and play. API development, when you implemented everything as a API point of view, your API can be plug and play by any other applications also. They will simply connect by using their techniques. They will connect to your application when you implemented your entire functionality as a API functionality, API development. So that's what wherever you are going hearing, wherever you are hearing about API development is nothing but this is what only the REST API development. Okay, so wherever you hear like API development means you are implementing your entire functionality as a REST API, and those APIs you are giving it to the whoever want to connect with your application. You are just sharing that API information to them so that they are writing their own techniques or their own programming language concepts or whatever it is. Finally, they are making connectivity to your application. So similarly, how many people or how many applications can connect to our application? Any number of applications when you are making as a REST services point of view. Okay, that's why it's portable. It's very portable. It's plug and play. You can make your application is a plug and play, or your application is portable. Portable in the sense what? You can integrate wherever you want. Portable in the sense you can fix it wherever you want. You can use that functionality wherever you want. Very simply, you can use it because you implement it by following a concept of REST services or REST API concept. Okay, so now let's see today how it is going to be looks like. What you have to do in the project setup, we will try to understand. I think yesterday I opened this for another batch. See, we will understand everything here. So going further, your REST APIs will come like this. So when you want to add object, add user, create user, register user. In JSP, what we written last class? Create user. object in place, just make it as a add user. So this is how something you are going to make sure some requests and responses or something like that. So there are a lot of concepts available in the REST API. We will understand, but at the end, this is how you are also going to implement something like list of objects, something. But it is following 80 to 90% of our Spring Web MVC functionality only. Okay, couple of differences you will see, but you will understand what is all these things. See here, I have two applications, Flipkart and payment, two Spring Boot applications. From the Flipkart, I am calling payment application REST service. So this code belongs to the Flipkart the source code belongs to the Flipkart, but this is a REST service belongs to the payment application, another Spring Boot application. So I'm calling that REST service from the Flipkart. I'm getting response from the payment application. So this is what you are also going to learn. This. Okay, so first we will do project setup. So these are all comes under the REST services. So we will also see what is this and all Swagger and everything. So now the meaning of it is we can write down our Spring Boot application. We can connect to these REST services. We can integrate. So that is how your application is going to be portable. Portable in the sense your application can be connected to by any other applications easily when you implemented everything as a REST services point of view. It's a very simple also, very interesting also. Please concentrate. Okay. Okay. So first project setup, what we have to do in the Spring Boot level. Spring Starter project. Okay. So see here, what are the dependencies I'm selecting? So for web application, what we want? The mandatory one. Web we want, right? So if you want to database integration, we are going with the JPA framework. So that's why we are using data JPA, and definitely we need always a driver. And DevTools, what is the purpose of DevTools? Is it mandatory generally? So there is no difference. There is no dependency of DevTools generally, but DevTools is helping us in what way? It just whenever you are making continuous development, whenever you are making changes in our source files, so we have to go to the application, restarting the application manually every change. But here DevTools is doing what? Whenever you are making a small change and clicking on the Control S or save, automatically your application is getting reloaded, nothing but redeployed on the Tomcat server. So that is what the advantage of DevTools. So that you don't need to restart manually when you are making small changes also. So Lombok, I think we know that Lombok, right? So you start using Lombok. Okay. So apart from this, anything else you want for implementing REST APIs in the sense, No, nothing you don't need. So same by using same web module, same web dependencies only, we can implement the REST API services. So dependencies wise, do you need any extra dependencies when comparing with the web module? No. Okay, fine. I'm not writing everything again. You know that. Okay, so application is getting created now. Okay, what are the properties we have to add here? Yeah, first thing is database we want. Okay, so you know everyone about all these properties. Why I'm using all this story. Okay, second, can we change our default port number? So REST services is all completely working on HTTP protocol on web application only. It's a pure web application only. Okay, so can we change default port number? Yes, if you want, you can change, or you can keep it as 8080 also. But I will never like 8080. I don't know. I'll always change port number. Okay, server dot port 9999 I given. So server dot servlet dot context path. So you know the context path now, right? So what is the meaning of context path? A base URI of entire URLs level, you are just making a project base URI. Okay, so it's up to our choice, we will define or not, but we will define for every application mostly. So I can give REST hyphen API or something also. Okay, so I just given like this. Okay, so anything else? Mandatory data we have here? No. So this is actually mandatory, these three properties. Remaining and all, we know the purpose. Okay, let me start my application. So you know that it is going to start. Okay, second step. Okay, we are done. Okay, so now fine, application is started, that is fine. But how we are going to implement REST services, let's see now. Okay, so concentrate now. For example, I have to implement a functionality calling as register user. So what is that functionality? Registration of the user account. So you can connect first name, last name, gender, contact number, all these details generally. For example, you got a requirement like this. Okay, the requirement, and I given you some images like this, and I told you I want first name, last name, similarly email, contact number, and password, and finally clicking on the sign up button. Or register button, whatever it is. So I told you, okay, name I can take, email I can take, contact I can take, password I can take, gender I can take. Okay, so this information I given to you, and I told you finally you have to store this entire information in a database point of view. This is the flow we have to implement now. Finally, the data has to come to the DB level. So if it is JSP point of view, what we did in this case? If it is JSP, what we did? If it is a monolithic application front end point of view. So we written this entire thing into the JSP, right? The code we written, HTML code we written inside the JSP. And the remaining, like everything is a Spring Web application only. Okay, so here as part of this, we written controller and we followed some view resolver concept, model and view concept. Okay, we integrated front end with the back end. Okay, so fine. But when it comes to the REST API services, generally how the implementation will happen or how the development will happen for the same requirement point of view, let's say here now. So here, when you are working with the REST services, so is without, okay, second point I will ask you when this, with this respected to this one only. So now, for example, user registration I did from my front end JSP in the same project. Now I want to connect it to your Spring Web application or whatever it is, your web application I would like to connect from my application and I want to register with your account. I want to register with your account. So my application is so-and-so application. Okay, so-and-so phone pay application or whatever it is. Somehow I would like to connect and it is implemented on the .NET application. Okay, assume like that. And I would like to connect with your application and I would like to register my details in your application. So is it possible in this case? No. Only way is how this application development is happened. How can you store information or how you are going to register with your application or your application is compatible only with respect to when you are writing front end in the same application, you are not implemented any web services concept. You are simply written some kind of controller layer logic or servlet kind of logic and you just integrated JSP with the controller layer. So the only way is how you are going to do that? By using front end only, you can register user information with the database. Is that true or not? So, but the main objective of REST APIs is what? Is a dependency related to only one component is going to help us to store any data, to get any data, to make any operation. We are going to dependent on only one component or we are going to make it flexible to any other application, to any, okay, front-end technology, any other application, wherever your application is ready to accept any other applications. That is what the concept of REST APIs, right? So your application should be flexible to communicate with in any another way, whether it is a front end, whether it is a .NET, whether it is a Python application, whether it is a microservices application, whatever way it is, your application is flexible. Your application should be in a flexible situation to interact or to integrate with other applications. That is what the concept of REST API implementation here it is. So in this case, for example, and one more thing. So is it that much easy to create always a front end to test our backend applications? No, right? For example, so that's why what I'm going to do here, assume sometime it's not only front end. It might be .NET application. It might be Python application. It might be your front end only React application. Or it might be any other application, .NET applications or Python applications, whatever it is. Okay, so any application can communicate with your application. That is how you should make your application implementation now. So that is the purpose what we are going to do. We are going to implement this requirement in a way of REST API implementation. So how can we do that? Okay, let me save it first. Okay, so how can I do that? We will say step by step. But the main agenda of implementing your application or your functionalities, everything as a REST API is nothing but your application should be connected to any other applications. It might be your front end, it might be another applications also. So how we are going to make sure this kind of flexibility we will see now. Okay, first web service we will write down. Okay, next step is add a controller class. What it is? Controller class. So how to add a controller class? That's what I told you, 80 to 90% what you learned in the last week. Same thing in the REST API also. Only 10-20% you are going to learn something new in REST API. Okay, maybe 30%, but 70 to 60% the things what you learned in the last 1 week, controller service repository point of view, same thing here also it is going to reflect. So how to add controller class? Just create a class, add an annotation of controller. Okay, so I'm just giving a meaningful package names also. Okay, so I'm just making first REST API controller. So you can give any name, guys. So what it is? Controller. Okay, fine. Now, okay, leave about the first requirement. I mean, this requirement. We'll come back. On a high level requirement I given you, but slowly we will come to this level how we are going to implement user registration and all. For that, you have to understand a lot of other points. Okay, now the third point of view, my requirement here it is send hello to everyone. I mean, send hello to client. Okay, like hello world kind of thing option. Okay. Public void. Okay, let's do one thing. String say hello or whatever it is. Okay. So I would like to send this message as a response to the whom? To the client, whoever is calling this endpoint method, this controller method. Okay. How to define controller method, endpoint method? What is the annotation you know? At the rate request mapping. Yes, follow as this. Okay. So can I give you a URI here? Yes. Say something like hello. Okay. Can I write down / hello? Yes. So now, in this case, is it going to work if I'm sending request to this endpoint? Why? Yeah, let's try now. Okay, it's restarting automatically because we added DevTools. Okay, let me form your URL first. What is the port number? 9999? Yeah, so this is what important for me. The URL is. So please understand there are a lot of technical points will come. 9999 / REST API / hello. Yes. Okay, fine. So can I send this request from the browser now? Because it is a get mapping method. Okay, sorry, it will allow HTTP request get method or not? HTTP method get or not? Okay. So from the browser generally, whenever we are sending any request or any URL from the browser from the such URL location, is it always a get request or post or any other request? From the browser. Okay, leave about Spring or okay, whatever it is. I'm just asking a general question. Any request I'm sending from here, a URL I'm entering from here, the request is always going to be in the back end. Is it get or post? Yes, from the browser, whatever you are entering from the URL location, that request, that endpoint is in the background, always connected to which HTTP method? Get only. So that means browser always sending request as a get request when you are sending request from the URL location. These things these are all generic points. Okay, please concentrate. Okay, so now in this case, I just sent the request. Now what you got? White label error page. So understand the error. What is the problem here? It is this application has no explicit mapping for the error. So it is saying like you are not handling the errors. That is also okay. there was an unexpected error, type not found, status equal to 404. Okay, we will understand later what is 404 and all everything here. No static resource for, hello everyone, please listen. So what is the meaning of no static resource? No static resource. It is saying with this name, I don't see any JSP file. With this name, I don't see any static resources in the sense, I don't find anything in the view layer. Are we created any view resolver today? Are we created any views folder? We are not done anything today. Why? Because going further, our applications, we are not keeping front end in our Spring Web application. Front end is a separate application. I am making my application as a REST API application. After making REST APIs, what we will do? We will simply throw REST APIs to the front end team. Hey, these are all my functionalities. This is my REST services. Now it's your time to integrate REST services from your side. Now do whatever you want to do. These are all my services. So that is what you are just sharing with the front end team. They will write down their own languages, their own technologies. It's all their headache now. Integrating your REST services. You don't need to worry about them. So they will start making integrating. They know how to integrate, the front end people. Okay. So here, but the thing is by default looking for what? View layer and all. Okay, fine. So this is what we know that if I return a JSP file and if I am returning from the JSP here, what will happen? It will return. Okay. So, but in this case, if I want to make sure this response is independent of static resources or independent of the view layer. So that means without depending on instead of depending on the view layer and all, I would like to send this message directly to the client level, whoever is calling this endpoint, whoever is calling this controller method, I would like to send this message as a response to them. So for that, what you have to do in the REST API implementation point of view, add another annotation called as @response body on method level. At method level, I can write down like this. At a method level. So what you have to do? Response body. So now understand here what is the response body annotation. So this annotation is going, okay, this annotation will make the return value as a response. Okay, return value converted as a response value and send it to the client. So generally, who is client? Any application, whoever is sending the request. Whoever is sending the request, they are clients. So that means what you are trying to say here it is by using this annotation where you have to use at method level. So now see, okay, at method level, what is that annotation? Response body. Okay, so I just added a response body annotation to this method. Now let me send same request one more time. So what is this now? You got the response or not? So this time, is it asking about the view layer? Is it asking about any JSP file? No. So that means now whatever you implemented right now, it's a REST service. So what you understood today, what you understood from this example, to make a controller method as a REST service, then what is the annotation is helping you? @response body. So @response body, see the description of @response body, annotation that indicates, okay, let's do one thing. I will copy paste here. So see definitions and all, sometimes you can learn from here also. Request body annotation indicates a method return value should be bounded to the web response body. Okay, web response body supported for another handler methods. Okay, so simple. Whatever technically they given, same thing we are also doing. Returning same value converted as a response value. So what this annotation, now you are telling to the Spring Web module, okay, by adding this annotation, you are telling to the Spring Web module, hey web module, consider this entire controller method as a REST service. There is no relation with the view resolver. If I am returning from here, now hello also, is it looking for the view file or is it looking, or directly hello is converted as a response value and hello is displaying on the client? What's happening in this case? Yes, hello value converted as a response value and just printing hello on our browser level, or whoever is sending the request to your application, they are going to receive what word? Hello only. So whoever is sending, now tomorrow a Python application sending request for this endpoint, then what they will receive in the response level? A hello world, hello only, hello word. Or if you written this sentence, this will be received by the client application. So when it is possible, when you are adding the response body. So now what is the point you understood here? To implement a REST service, to implement a REST API, okay, REST service. I will explain you what is the meaning of REST API, what is the meaning of REST service. See, group of services are called as API. If you implemented 100 services, overall 100 services will be called as REST API, okay, or RESTful web services, a plural world, okay, services. If you implemented only one, simply I can call it as a service, REST service singular word on all. Okay, so I implemented one REST service. Now, if I delete it again, it will look for static resource, nothing but a view file, nothing but a JSP file and all. So if you are adding again, this now without adding this, is it a REST service now? No, it's a simple, the old approach, view layer point of view, view resolver point of view, it is looking for the JSP page. Now, so many people in your practice level, you got white label errors when you are practicing. The problem here it is, okay, something, you are not added view files properly, or you given case sensitive words, okay, something like that, you got the white label errors. Okay, now this is a REST service or not? Okay, fine. So I will do one more thing. Okay, so now let me send request for this one also, dollar price. What is the return value this time? Double, okay. So what's happened again? White label error page, something, unexpected error. So the reason is, even this time it is illegal argument why it is saying. The reason is, generally view layer JSP file names in the string format, we given double. So that means simply it is looking for the view file, but you given double and all. You got the problem, right? But first of all, is it a REST service we implemented now? No. So to make it as a REST service, at the rate response body, yes. Okay, now let's send the request, same request after adding this. Yes, it is restarted now. So let me resend request. Now what happened again? You got the response value or not? So now see how simple it is. Are you really feeling very simple when comparing with the view layer or not? Yes. Even development wise, developers also feeling, once REST services came into the market, the backend developers felt very happy. Otherwise, we have to worry about that front end layouts. We have to write down that view layers, JSP elements, JSTL tags. Lot of nonsense is there at one point of time. So once REST API came, whatever value you have to return, just return it as a, now see what I am doing. I am writing a class called as, okay, some order class, whatever it is. I am using just like data. No aux constructor, all aux constructor. So that means I just writing a Pojo class, private string order ID, private double price. Okay, so assume you are having a lot of properties. Now see, I'm going to write down one more REST service. Can I write down one more? Yes. I'm returning return type as order, the class what I implemented. Get order data, something like that. I written a method here. Order slash info. I can give any what URI patterns, but it should be unique, right? So now what is the return value here? New order object you have to return or not as a Java language point of view. Okay. So first one is order ID ORDR123. Second one is price. So is it good? So what we are returning? Assume you got this data from the service layer. Internally, service is connecting with the repository. See, and one more point I would like to tell you. The REST API concept, what you are going to learn is again 100% everything on the controller class only. The entire topic of the REST services implementation, the training, the entire things will always happens on which class? Controller only. So that means what is the point you have to understand again here? Service and repository layers, whether it is previous approach or current approach, service and repository always same kind of approach. Whatever you learnt in the previous, okay, view resolver point of view, view layer integration point of view, what you are learning right now for REST API implementation, the entire scenario or the entire drama going inside which class? Controller class only. So you are going to be introduced to so many things in the controller class. So that means you have to get good knowledge in the controller class level. So many annotations, so many functionalities will come. See, as of now, you introduced with the three annotations, but I will introduce so many annotations going further also. That too, everything is going to come at only controller. Finally, you will pick up some data at controller, then you will pass it to the service, and the story is same. Service and repository JPA point of view. Okay, so now let's send request for this. So what is my endpoint? So generally now understand, people will call it as endpoint. Okay, some terminology point of view, real life terminology point of view, endpoint. So endpoint here it is /hello. Okay, please understand. Here endpoint is $price. Here endpoint is order info. Sometimes I will also ask you how you implemented your endpoint. Can you give me your endpoint URL? Or can you give me your endpoint URL in the sense the entire URL, including this? Okay, can I call two endpoints now? Yes, these are all things will be called as, in a simple terminology, few people as a REST endpoints, REST services, REST service, REST endpoint. Okay, both are same. REST services. REST services is nothing but representing REST API. API is nothing but group of multiple collection of services. The overall we will call it as a API. Fine. So now let's send request first of all to this order/info. Go to the browser. So what happened here? You got response or not? Okay, leave about this format. What and all I will tell you. Finally, that somewhat you got the response. You return response to the client level or not? Order 123, 122 and all. Leave about what is this syntax and all. I will come back. Okay. So you got the response or not? That is what. So that means what you understood here it is, what we can understand here it is, we can return any data type value or not. Yes, by using REST services. For example, print message something. I'm not writing anything void. Returning nothing. So in this case, are you returning any value? No, right? So empty response. Nothing but can I say empty response, but you are executing some logic. Feel like you are executing lot of logic, but at the end, finally, you are not returning any response. Okay. So can I send request for this? Yes, send the message after REST API. REST API is a common or not? Yes, it's a base path. Now what happened? Empty response because your service is not returning anything, but in the background, logic is executed or not? Yes, 100%. What is this? Logic executed or not? So this is how your API. Now tell me, These are all API services. Can I call from anywhere else? Yes, now you can call. For example, okay. Oh, so one more point. Okay, so let's summarize what we learned as of now. Can we return any value as a response in REST API? Is it possible? Yes, you can return string, double, void, employee, list of employees, list of orders. Okay, you can return any value, but you have to follow some guidelines going further slowly, but you can return. Yes, we can return. And second point, to make sure a method as a REST or a controller method, as a REST service, what you have to do? Add response body, add at the rate response body. So for example, now tell me, in same controller, maybe it's generally people will not follow mostly. Can I maintain view layer and can I return? Can I write down one more controller method to invoke the JSP? Whatever, can I invoke a JSP file? Yes, I can. Then what you will do? Okay, now is it a REST service? This is all completely looking for welcome.jsp. Now you have to configure view resolver and all. But generally, people will follow only one approach. Whether you are keeping front end in your application or maybe everything as a REST services, maybe sometimes you will keep couple of things in your Spring Web application itself, and as well as couple of things you will implement as a REST services also. Okay, but very rare case. But it will work there. Then it will look for what? Welcome/JSP. Okay, let's see here now. This time is it going to print welcome or you are going to get error? Yes. So white label error, it is saying like no static resource found for the welcome. So it's not finding welcome.jsp or not configured anything. So that means you can add those functionalities also. So how to test endpoints? Who is this? Ishwar. Wait. Okay. Until I am reaching to the postman, wait. You are in the day 1. You are not in the day 10. How do you know that there is a postman? I already told you so many times, don't ask upcoming topic doubts here. Okay. So I know. I will introduce slowly. Okay. So now, even if I am adding again at the rate response body, so you just note down all these points. Okay. Even I will upload this project also. Small points, but very good technical points. So now is it going to print what? Welcome. So we return couple of REST services or not now? In a simple testing point of view, we return. Still, we need to get a lot of knowledge of implementing other services. So in this case, what you observe, tell me commonly. It's already highlighted also. In every REST service level, 5 REST services I have written. Every REST service level, externally, I'm defining at the rate response body at method level, and I'm telling to the web module, consider this method as a REST service, not a regular, okay, view layer method. It's purely a REST service. Or you are saying like, convert this response, convert this return value, method return value, convert method return value as a response with respect to REST API concept. That is what this annotation you are using, right? So now, what Spring Framework is doing here, so this question is being asked in interviews. Okay, most of the times people will ask this question in interview. Now you just answer me, what is the difference after I'm explaining? Okay, so what Spring Framework is understanding here it is, why developers has to write down every time okay, my application is 100% implementing only REST services. I did not integrating, I am not involving any view layer. Okay, or most of the development is happening, or I'm implementing every functionality as a REST API. Every time, so tomorrow if you return 500 REST services or 500 endpoint methods, how many times you are going to write down at the rate response body? You can write down any number. Okay, 500 times you have to write down, right? So similarly, can I create one more controller class, one more few other REST services? Yes, I can do that. Second REST controller. I'm not getting. Okay, let's see here. Product something. Product data loading. Okay, so what I did, I created one more controller class and I written one more REST service. So like that, how many controllers I can create? I can create any number of. How many REST services I can write down inside one controller? Any number of REST services. But whenever I am writing a REST service, every time I have to maintain at the rate response body or not? Yes, every time you have to do that. So if you are not writing, response body, it is looking for the JSP integration, or it is looking for the view layer point of view, view layer, right? Okay. Now, by observing all these things, what Spring Framework is doing, Spring Framework introduced one more annotation called as @REST controller. What is that annotation? @REST controller. So this annotation is used for implementing REST services in our Spring application, in Spring Web application, in Spring Web. So why we will use this annotation? Implementing the REST services. So that means this annotation is derived as @REST controller is derived from @controller only. So then can I consider this, if I'm using this, where I have to use this now? Derived from the controller in the sense class level. So nothing but it is also indirectly a component or not? So this class object is going to be created by the container or not, as a bean object? Yes. Okay. So at the same time, as part of this annotation, okay, they are binded @response body as well. @response body as well. So that means I can say REST controller equal to @ See, this answer everyone will say in interviews, I observed. But when I'm asking, okay, I will ask later. Okay, so on a high level, REST controller is combination of controller plus @response body. So now in this case, what I can do? Can I use, in place of @controller, can I use REST controller? Yes. So whenever I'm using REST controller, again, are you going to, is it mandatory? I mean, are we going to use response body again? No, that is what. So what Spring Framework thought, when these people are implementing 100% REST services, or most of the times REST services, why they have to use controller class is mandatory, but every REST service level, what you are doing? @response body, @response body, @response body. To avoid this problem, defining @response body every time, in a controller class, if I return 20 REST services, 20 times I have to give the response body. Now what these guys did, Spring Framework, okay, anyway, these guys are implementing 100% REST services. When they are working with REST services implementation, they can directly provide what? @REST controller on the class level. So what it is? @REST controller on the class level. Give me a second. Okay, I'm sending request now. See what's happened. You got the response, right? But now you can ask, can I delete this now? So even though if you are keeping, okay, let's go to the first controller. Here also I made everything. In place of controller, what I added? REST controller. Can I delete? I'm deleting response body, deleting response body, deleting response body, deleting response body. Okay, here also I deleted response body. So am I maintained anywhere else response body now? No, everywhere directly request mapping and the respective method execution or method logic. So can I let me send the request now? So it's restarted always. I'm doing controllers continuously. It is restarted again. Send me request. Let's send the request one more time. So you got the same response or not? Okay. So what you understood from this point, REST controller is a combination of @controller and response body. Then what is the use of controller? I can use directly always REST controller only, right? Then can we avoid 100% controller? Then why Spring is keeping controller? Then they can keep REST controller only, right? For example, your application is integrated with the view layer. You have to load a view JSP now. Welcome.jsp. Then response body is going to help. Sorry. Then @REST controller, because internally your method is okay declared with an annotation called as @response body. Then how it will load welcome.jsp? It will print only welcome. Then you have to write down a controller class @controller and without response body public string get welcome page return welcome. You got the point now. When you have to go for @controller, this point nobody is saying. People are simply they are reading somewhere else and they are coming REST controller. They are saying like controller plus response body equal to REST controller. This is the only sentence everyone is saying. But can I use REST controller everywhere? No. But the advantage of controller here it is, when you want to load a JSP file, definitely you have to go again a controller class only. A controller class only you have to load always. You have to define a controller. You don't need to write down @response body, and then your controller class will load a JSP file when you integrated a view layer also. You got the point now? If you return your application is 100% REST services, then you can use @REST controller annotation, so that all services, all REST services inside that controller class are behaving as REST services. So if I given again @controller, what is going to happen? So this will look for the welcome.jsp. This is also going to say something like invalid arguments, because return type is void. Invalid arguments. Here it will look for again this .jsp file. Right? So because you given @controller. So when you have a customization, okay, now if I given you something, tomorrow if you have a requirement, you are not sure about, maybe couple of REST services you have to implement, as well as couple of view layer functionalities. Then which annotation you have to use? 100%. Okay, assume these two things you have to write down in only one class. Then which annotation you can use? @controller. And wherever you are implementing REST services methods, give @response body. Wherever you are not, using view layer functionalities, don't use response body. But your class is 100% REST services, then you can simply use REST controller. You got the real difference now? This is how you have to explain in it. Don't select shortcut. Everyone will say REST controller equal to controller plus response body. But is okay, somewhat correct. But in practicality, in reality, then why I have controller? That is the next question they are asking. Then I can avoid controller. So now then tell @REST controller is going to work with the view layer. If you want to load a JSP file, @REST controller is going to work. In such scenarios, you have to take again controller. By using controller, you can implement the REST services as well as view layer implementation. But by using REST controller, you can do only REST services implementation. Okay, that is what the customization here it is. Okay, so but there is a format coming. I'll tell you what is that format and all. So you can see some curly braces, right? Generally, it is a JSON data format. I'll explain you what is JSON, what you have to take and all. As a request body, as of now, we concentrated on only response body. Sometimes data comes from the front end to back end. first name, last name, all these things. But we are not defined anything in the request body point of view. So we will come back step by step. Okay, so I will stop here itself because we don't have much time. So any doubts, you just ask.